Hello, this is Mike at Sound Investment. Today I'm going to give you a quick way, old school way of doing an insert. I've done a lot of this work in advance, but we're going to try and make this kind of quick. So I've got a panel here that fits in this car. We body worked it so that it fits pretty well. Got a rabbet on the back side, so when I wrap it in vinyl, I can make it look good on the front side and the back side. This is my insert. I'm going to put this here in the center of this panel. This is going to do two things for me. It's going to give me a place to put a logo simply. Also, it will give me a place to do a different color. So I'll do the main piece in a black vinyl, and then I'm going to body color match it with a piece of red vinyl. Probably do a Honda H logo in here. But real quick, I'm going to show you how to do this. This is old school Kent tape. I don't want to wrap this panel in Kent tape. And the reason I'm doing this is it's really just a spacer. This Kent tape is about the same thickness as vinyl. So what I'm doing is I'm giving myself clearance for the vinyl on the top of the piece and the vinyl on my insert itself. I don't know if they even make Kent tape anymore. I found this laying around the back building. If they do, somebody yell at me, because I used to use the heck out of this stuff. And for this, it's kind of perfect. We've got some different transfer tape that we use these days. But when I first learned how to use a router table, Kent tape was the stuff that we used. That was quite a while ago. So, one layer down. Let's go ahead and put a second layer on. I'm going to cut the excess off of this so that it's flush with the piece. And I'll show you the why here in just a minute. And I'll just leave the protective coating on there. And that just lets me peel it easier.
He's busy with the customer right now, so we can help him with it. That's it.
Doesn't have to be super duper perfect, but there's that. Now I'm just going to come around the outside perimeter of this and flush it off.
So Tuesday the 30th would be great. Thursday the 2nd. Does that work for you? All right.
Sorry about the background noise here. It is super humid today. When I do vinyl work, I kind of like my climate to be without that much humidity. So we're going to run the air conditioner pretty tough today. Went to the Boy Scout meeting last night, and the Scouts did a special thing on proper knife safety. I'm probably not doing that properly at the moment. I'm definitely cutting at myself on a regular basis. So we'll flush this back off on this side also. All I'm doing this for is literally this is just a spacer so that covers the thickness of the vinyl. You can do this with 1/4-inch Kent tape. You gotta be real cautious about getting it on there square, so I just go with oversized stuff. Stick it on there and flush it off. It adds to your steps, but I always have the right flavor around if I do it this way. Now I'm going to grab some transfer tape. Hold on a second. I'm going to stick this down to my bottom piece. I don't need it to be stuck super hard because I'm going to have to pick it out of there in a little bit. Need it to be centered though, or it will look dumb. Alright, stick it. Now I'm sure some of you out there are real body shop guys. I'm not doing real body work here, so don't get all excited about the way that I apply some regular old body filler. I just want to get it on there. I don't care so much about proper adhesion to metal and all that kind of stuff because we're doing body work on wood. I don't want to wait all day, so that's probably too hot for you body shop guys. But in this case, just here to get this stuff hardened up. It's a form that all I'm doing here. And I don't care about pinholes and all the other stuff that body shop folk would be cringing about, because I'm not going to paint this. Probably didn't mix up. So as you can see, just laying this in here, so that it can cover my piece. It's a really fast way to do this job. There's all kinds of ways to do it. This way works out in a speed technique for sure. Try and get this job done in one shot. Again, I don't really care about the pinholes. They'll be fine. The vinyl will cover most of that. If I had a more rigid spatula, that'd be better, but I don't have any of my metal ones here. Starting to cook. Might have to do this twice. Didn't do a fantastic job first shot at it, so. So as I suspected, it's a little dipped in, so I just knocked the edge off of the top of it. But I'm going to go ahead and throw another coat on this. I don't want it to be shaped like this so much. I want it to kind of lay out real flat to the edge. There is sort of a magic time when you're working Mondo that in this world you can carve it a little bit. I like to use an Olfa knife, window tint knife. I can bend the blade, do some stuff with it, sort of modeling clay kind of carve. It works out pretty good for me. Other guys sometimes will use a cheese grater, which I've used that before too. Cheese grater lets you sort of carve the shape too. You can get your rough shape before it gets all the way hard. So once it gets all the way hard, you just sandpaper, but you could knock some things down a little bit faster in the time where it's hot but not hard. The other thing is as I'm mixing this stuff, I'm coming at it pretty fast. So the substrate that I'm about to put this stuff on top of is hot from the chemical reaction, which will make this stuff kick even faster because it's accelerating the time on the temperature. So I like to work this stuff fast. Again, this is not true body shop stuff. I understand I'm doing a lot of things wrong when it comes to adhesion onto steel and proper prep for paint and all that kind of stuff. That's not what I'm doing here. So onion board is just about done now. Time for a new one. Might have to get a scrap of wood off the floor here and use as a spatula to get a little bit more rigidity so that I don't. Problem is I'm sort of curving my spatula down into the gap. That's not what I want to do. So let's see what I got laying around. That'll work. Not exactly what I was after, a little too big. But, see the point. If you ever need to accelerate your Bondo, you can do that with a heat gun. So if you're really trying to speed a process up, throw your heat gun on it, it'll kick it off a lot faster. Again, in this case, I don't care about its structural behavior, so I'm just using it for a beautification process here. starting to kick, so you can start that carving process. So it's not quite there. I don't want to carve on anything real critical because it's still awful pliable. I can get some of these extra hard spots that are high spots that are up here on the wood. Saves you a little sanding. All right, I'm gonna let this cook off just a little bit more. Then I'm gonna get on the sanding. So I let that second coat kick off. I've been hitting it a little bit with the DA just to sort of knock the high sides off and feather this edge out. Then to kind of catch that little bit of concave that's still in there, I'll just hit it with a piece of sandpaper in my hand. Use the palm of my hand. You notice that I just touched on the edge, which is fine. I just got to remember that I got to mark this thing so that it fits back in there exactly the way it came out. Depending on the level of finish that you're going to do. If I was getting really crazy, I'd put this in primer and paint it. In this case, we're not getting that detailed on this vehicle. It's a street car. It's going to get used as such. Not a show car. Do. So now I'm going to pick my form out of the center. I might have gone a little bit heavy on the tape underneath. Just sort of sticking my knife in the corner here. So, this tape off. So now it fits in just enough gap for 2 thicknesses of vinyl. Panel goes in like that. I'll clean up here and then I'll wrap this panel up and show you what she looks like. So we got this panel all prepped, cleaned it off, cut a piece of vinyl. I'm going to show you how I put glue on. The only glue that I recommend anybody use is this stuff right here. Weldwood contact adhesive. It's originally for Landau tops. It's the stuff. Nothing else works the same. This is a Harbor Freight cheapo gun with a leaky fitting. It'll work just fine. I want to make sure that I get plenty of glue down inside so that I can get my vinyl to stick down in there. Make sure you get plenty of glue on, but you don't want it dripping. So make sure it atomizes out of your gun pretty well. If your gun gets clogged up and it starts spitting at you, obviously clean the gun or throw it away and get a new one. You want it pretty well atomized coming out of the gun. The other trick on this stuff is let it sit. Don't try and get on it until after it's really dry. Every time I make a mistake on vinyl, it's because I got on it too quickly. You gotta let it pack up so that it's almost dry to the touch. In fact, it is dry to the touch. So you can lay it on a product when it's dry like that, and if you've laid it in the wrong place, you'll be okay. If you put it on wet, it smears around, acts funny. Sometimes it penetrates the vinyl, makes that look ugly. So, the trick is let it tack up well. I'm really trying to knock that piece of vinyl off. So this is pretty dried up. Obviously I can touch it, nothing smearing around. I truly went to lunch. That's how long it takes sometimes to let this stuff tack out well enough. Then like I said, when you got it tacked out right, you can just throw your material on it. Make sure you've got your piece laid out with enough overlap all the way around. It doesn't stick well until you push on it. It is pressure sensitive, so make sure you get it where you want it before you put pressure on it. I'm going to worry about the backside before I worry about that insert that I got going on in there. So I'm going to go ahead and spray out the back end. Get my panel wrapped around here too. So spray some more glue. Want to make sure you sort of dig into the rabbit with your glue. We'll let that tack out. All right, we gave this enough time to tack up. Everything's dry-ish or tacked up, whatever you want to call it. Let's start folding this edge up. Little heat, definitely part of the program here. Nothing exotic in the heat gun either, another Harbor Freight tool. I use Harbor Freight tools when they make sense. Die grinders, heat guns. Absolutely. Sort of preheating the vinyl in advance of where I'm ready to go. Pull it up. Stick it. I'm just sticking into my rabbit here. You will occasionally burn a finger doing this. Vinyl gets hot. Sometimes you gotta cut a little bit of a relief so that the vinyl will pull. And then I'll cut that vinyl off right in that rabbit. So it gives my blade something to guide on. I'm right on the rabbit. I like my panels to look fairly flush and finished on the backside as well. Yep, that's hot. Hot's good, it stretches, but it will get your fingers. This corner is the hardest one because it actually turns and goes back the other way, more than 90 degrees. So there'll be a little bit of a duck foot that I have to cut in that corner on the back side. You won't be able to tell that from the front side at all, but said oftentimes I get that sort of bird foot kind of thing going on the corners. This is the absolute back side of the panel. I do have a tool that I use, just a chunk of aluminum, a couple different contours on it. It was made by a company called Select Products. It was a long time ago. Sort of my introduction to router technique was with those guys. Don't know where any of those guys went. They were some pretty good guys. They were the industry standard for quite some time. Until Mobile Solutions came along. And then Brian ran that ball quite a bit better than the other guys did. And his training classes took me another level up on my router techniques. I don't mind going to a class if it makes sense, for sure. This just keeps you from wearing your fingers out. Lets me push that edge in there tight without rug burning off all my fingertips. Back on that Alpha blade. And my mark is already there because my rabbit is in place. The rabbit is also going to let me allow my panel to fit flush against the flat panel that's in the car already. There's one of those crow's foots that I was sort of talking about earlier. I just got a fold in there. I'll just go in there, give it a slice under this side, a slice under this side, just so that it's flat again. So, finished in on the rabbit on this side. Now we're going to go over here. We're going to try and get this sit down right in there. kind of want to see what's going on in here a little bit better. I don't need a lot of material. I just need to get down to the wood. And then once I get down to the wood, I'm actually going to cut that off flush so that I don't add any material thickness below my panel. So we're just going to try and get this guy to sit down in here. So we're getting the glue down in there. And I've masked it off before where I didn't get any glue down here on the wood. And that'll help you. But I was kind of in a rush. And this will be plenty tight enough down in there so that you will not be able to see the wood underneath. So just running that around like that. Again, with an alpha right in here in the bottom of the groove. Heat gun's become a pretty popular tool around here. We use it a lot. We like to heat shrink all of our wiring these days. Makes for a really nice finish. Scotty's back here behind me putting 0-gauge upgrade in this gentleman's car. And he'll heat shrink all his connections. And makes for really good looking connections. We don't get any frays that way. So we don't have any ugliness in the future. We also like to solder all our connections in. So we use just a standard style ring terminal. And then we solder all the connections. Now with 0-gauge, we solder them in with a torch. But we do solder them in. Makes for a almost indestructible connection. Wait, we also don't have any frays sticking out, all that kind of stuff. So as you can see, I just got that down in there. It's flush right with the bottom. I don't want any extra material in there because it will make my bottom panel sit up proud. And I don't want it up proud. I want it to be flush once I cover it with vinyl as well. So you can see it's down in there tight. And then when we put the panel in, it'll fit in there. Now there's still a little bit of gap. I want a little bit of gap. So I'm gonna wrap this panel in vinyl also. And once I wrap it in vinyl, it's gonna be really tight in here. And then I'll be able to screw this panel down right here. And the screws will be completely hidden. So I'll just do a countersinking screw, put a couple fasteners here, and screw it down to the top of the subwoofer enclosure. Then I'll put this panel in place and it'll cover up the screws. So let me go see if I can find the right material to cover this other piece, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. So this is an old trick that I learned. I just went and got a Honda logo out on the net, blew it up pretty big on this piece of paper, just printed it, right? So glue it onto a piece of scrap vinyl, just something you got laying around, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to cut this thing out. arts and crafts class here. You can do this with just about any logo that makes sense, right? You get really complicated with a logo, it gets a little tougher. I've often done my company name. That's a lot of cutting out. It's kind of hard to do. I've probably done a zillion bow ties this way. Kind of done with bow ties. I don't really like doing them much anymore. Not that I dislike the bow tie, it's just I did too much artwork with the same thing for too long. So, the way of doing this one, it's going to end up being two pieces. So when I lay it onto my piece, I need to make sure that, step back and look at it, make sure that it's not crooked. Your eye will show you a lot about things being square and plumb and crooked or aligned. Certainly a tape measure helps, but step back and look at it. That's kind of what I'm saying. Get somebody else to look at it if you don't trust yourself. Once you burn this in, it'll be part of your car. We've all seen that guy riding around with stickers on the back of his car that weren't straight and chuckled. So I don't want to be part of that. So there's my outside edge. You could get real tricky. You could do this in a positive, or you could do this in a negative, whichever way you decided. I'm doing it as a positive in this occasion. I've definitely done plenty of negatives in the past. I've done kicker a lot, bow ties. I even had one client that she liked fairies and butterflies. So her car's always got fairies and butterflies. was going to do negative, I'd use that piece. In this case, I'm going to do the positive. So, just get an idea of where this is laying in here. And what visually makes sense. I'm going to be looking at it from the back of the car. It's going to look pretty good, right? Make some pencil marks on it so it's easier to line up after I glue it up. It's nice when they stay all one piece and you don't have to make sure you got the alignment right, but rarely they are that. Get my glue out again. Definitely going to end up with some glue on my fingers. Alright, we're going to let that tack up. I'll show you how to stick it. Alright, enough time has passed. This stuff's still a little tacky, but I got a little bit of a deadline I'm trying to hit here, so not quite such a critical piece. Make sure you put the logo on the right way too. I've definitely messed up and put one together upside down. Especially this H that's a little different one way than it is the other way. If it wasn't quite so sticky, it'd be a lot easier to do this. It's a little tacky. Not cooperating because I didn't wait long. Patience, patience. Virtue that I sometimes am without. So she's stuck. And it looks like that. This is where when you're using vinyl, your surface preparation's got to be pretty good. Otherwise, dirt or dents or crevices like to show. So we're kind of using that to our advantage here, and we're going to make this proud from the bottom of the vinyl. So again, I'm going to glue it up. Gluing right over top of the vinyl. Make sure you get the edges, because you want it to be able to stick down in there. So it makes your logo up and proud on the surface. I got a ton of glue in there. I am definitely going to have to wait. Patience has to be on this next step. The glue can't evaporate at all through the vinyl. Vinyl's kind of waterproof, so you got to let all the gases escape so that otherwise your glue doesn't dry underneath, and then you end up with puffy spots where things don't stick. So make sure you let it tack all the way up. All right, we got stuff tacked up pretty good. Might be a little wet in a couple of places. I think it's gonna be all right. So, car's red. We're gonna go ahead and use a piece of red vinyl. Get her edges stuck. We'll flip this and spray the other side real quick so we can be tacking up along the edge while I do the other side here.
I borrowed Zion puckering, I'm going to Eagle.
Scotty's here, folks. Oh yeah, so we're just gonna push this thing down. And I'll show you this Honda logo as it pops out. Carefully you don't use any sharp objects to push your corners down. It will mark the vinyl. You want to mark your vinyl. You just want it to sit down in the groove. Fingers work really good. You just end up with no fingerprints at the end of the day. My fingerprints have been pretty torn up for a long time, so the more time you spend on this, the better it will show in the detail. The more time you spend there, the sharper the edge is, right? I got her stuck to the table pretty good at this point. So, one Honda logo. So I don't stick that back in that glue that I got there. Yeah, I got things a little bit wet back here, so I'm gonna give that a little time before I try and get that stuck on that edge, or it won't stick on that edge. So, all right, so this is tacked up good. I'm gonna heat it up. Pull this. I'm gonna pull it pretty tight on these edges. This red vinyl is a little thicker than the black vinyl. It's gonna make it pretty tight in the hole, so I'll give it a little extra squeeze, take some of the tolerance fit out of it. I didn't put a rabbet on the back of this because I'm just going to cut this material off dead flush. I don't have to worry about doing a rabbet. I just want the wood to sit right down on the wood that's inside the piece that we got. I did, you know, sometimes when you turn that rabbet, you're adding some material thickness, and I don't want to do that in this case. Whew, she's getting warm. Make sure she's stuck all the way around. Ooh, that's right. Just cutting it dead off flush. Just dead flush, right? So there's my Honda logo. Get her piece back out here and see if she's gonna fit down in the hole. I think it's gonna be pretty tight. It actually goes in the car like this. So there we go. It's a pretty elaborate way to hide a couple of screws. And that's really all I'm doing here is hiding a couple of screws that are gonna hold this top plate in place. I've got all my other fasteners for the front plate and the rear plate on the sides of the box. We'll reach down inside and screw those in, but I didn't have any way to hide it on the top. So this gives me that way to hide it on the top. I'll show you the finished project here a little bit later. Thanks. Have a nice day.